Yeah. Did this episode have y'all skin crawling? And if y'all know what I'm talking about, y'all know what I'm talking about. I was not at all, for the life of me, expecting that. Y'all, my nerves was a little bad. But it was funny at the same time. But I was not expecting that. And if y'all, like I said, if y'all know, y'all know. If y'all watch, if not, y'all make sure y'all go because your girl's skin was crawling. But nevertheless, y'all, welcome back to another episode of the Abbott Elementary recap with your girl, me, Audrey B. Welcome back to AAB TV. Let's get into this recap, y'all. So this episode, episode 2 from season 2, is called Wrong Delivery. And the episode starts out with all of teachers in the lounge, just chit-chatting over a couple of things, talking about who they would like to see in movies and remakes. And in this particular scene, there was like a running joke about how Barbara, who again is one of the oldest teachers there, within that little crew, how she always mistakes, I think, white actors as or names as black actors, and they never correct her. They never, tell her like, no, that's not who it is, or that's not the movie you're talking about. And they just all kind of look around and have like this running inside joke. And it's funny because we all know that even for myself, sometimes I get people mixed up if they have similar names, if they look alike. Yeah, it's just funny, and we all know that some older people they do that, and it's just funny. So that was like the running joke in this in the opener, and then we see later on that they get a wrong delivery of some history books, I believe it was. And, they were brand spanking new. Everybody's in the office like, oh my gosh, like I can't believe they got all this updated information in here. Like they're looking through, and then somebody notices that these books are actually supposed to go to Addington Charter School, I believe it's called. And if y'all remember from last episode, we heard somebody mention a charter school, and that's one of the reasons why Melissa Sheminthi had to have some extra help because she's getting, students that didn't get in. So they are, they're like basically, telling each other like what they've heard about this particular new school and all these great things that they heard about it. And they all decide that during their lunchtime that they're going to go and give it a little check it out. And so when they get there, everything's bright, everything's brand new, smells new. They're just basically like comparing it to Abbott Elementary. Like there's no paint chipping, there's no asbestos, there's no trash everywhere, there's no old things. Like everything is brand spanking new. You can tell that they put a lot of money into the school. And then they run into another teacher. I did not catch her name, but I do know that it's the teacher that Greg in season 1 came to sub for, or he eventually replaced because she kicked a student. And she was basically, chipper, hyper, and also just like, bragging as she should about this new school. And they're all kind of behind her like, especially our girl Janine. She was kind of like trying to be like, well, Abbott has that too, and Abbott has that too, knowing good and well Abbott and I. And she just, again, she sees all these new things and all these opportunities to boost the morale, opportunities for the kids to excel and grow, and knowing that because it has to do with, the money that people put in. Like, she's like, her mind, you can tell her mind is like going, trying to figure out like how she can make Abbott, just as good as Addington Charter School. But again, the teacher was basically telling her like, we don't want to compete with the school. You know what I'm saying? We just want to do what's best for the kids with what we have. And Janine also just threw out some ideas of possibly having a computer lab there. Throughout the beginning of the episode, we also hear a lot about grant money, which they got on season one, and they're trying to all just come up with ideas and ways in which to spend the rest of the funds. Yeah. Another running theme in today's episode was Greg avoiding Barbara. And at first I was kind of like, what would be the reason? But then my light bulb went off and was like, oh, her daughter, Taylor, which was his boo thing. They met last season and we didn't really hear too much about it. We just knew from episode one of season two, last week's episode, to to make it easier, that they were still talking because Janine asked, and he said that they were doing great. Well, seems like the love boat is sinking because he is trying to figure out a way to end it with her and also not hurt Barbara's feelings. So we see throughout the episode, like, he's trying to avoid her and he doesn't want to make it awkward, but it's awkward anyway. And she doesn't seem to really be like playing into it or giving it too much energy. But like I said, he just doesn't want to deal with any drama because he's dating a coworker's daughter, and that's to be expected because you never know what's being said, either way. So Greg's awkward interactions with Barbara sparked the attention of Jacob and Mr. Johnson, the janitor, and so they're trying to give him advice on how to end things with Taylor and not make it so obvious. And they kept on saying, like, giving like crazy advice, like, ghosting her or being write her a letter and tell her that you got drafted into the army, like all type of stuff, y'all. And I was just like, what? But they basically told him to, I think they called it petering or something like that. If I'm not right, y'all let me know in the comments. But basically, like, slowly dying down the communication in order for them to just like end it instead of you having to end it, and that way it's kind of like no dust off your shoulders. And that's basically what Greg was going through, just trying to figure out a way to do it. And we all know that any other time Greg is like straight to the point, tell you how it is, but for some reason it's just really bothering him. I know it's because he respects Barbara also, and again because they work together and he doesn't want any mess. And also I forgot to mention that while they were at the charter school, they met who they called Melissa's doppelganger, and they it was another Italian woman who was walking through the hallway with this thick, like, Jersey accent, this thick Philadelphian type of Italian accent, and this like hard exterior just like Melissa. And they crossed paths in the hallway and just kind of gave each other the eye, but she never said anything, and the other lady never said anything either. But they was like, dang, like, she reminds us so much of you, like, this is your charter school doppelganger. That's what they kept on calling her. And that was it then. So, meanwhile, while all that's going on with Greg, Janine is still, trying to throw around ideas ever since she's seen the charter school about how she can make Abbott just as good as Addington. And she decides that she wants to use all of the money that they have left over for a computer lab. And everybody's like, a computer lab? Like, we don't even have a librarian to be in the library for the computer lab. So what about just one computer? And she's like, whatever it takes, like, it is what it is. And meanwhile, Ava's like, and again, everybody's throwing around ideas. And Ava's like, you know what? Since we can't all decide, let's just do it Shark Tank style. And if y'all familiar with Shark Tank, it's like a bunch of judges and people come and pitch their ideas or inventions, and they decide either they want to go with it and put money in it or not. And so that's basically what Ava decided to do. And homegirl thought she was really on TV. She kept looking like to the left, talking about, we'll be back after this commercial break. And Janine was like, who are you talking to? Like, I love Ava so much because she is like so in her own little world, but she still manages lightweight to get things done. So I really like that about her. And so they decide, like, okay, like, let's do it. Now, Melissa and Barbara, they're not, paying any mind to it. They're just you know, don't want to be have any parts with it. Neither does Jacob or Greg. So of course we all know Janine is the one. She always wants to have these big ideas, these big ventures, and she's gonna get it done. So she's all super excited. Ava, it's some of the judges were, it was Ava, Mr. Johnson, who is the janitor, and there was a student. She was in season one. I do not remember her name, but she was a really smart and smart aleck child, if y'all know what I mean. So she was in there with them, and they had cafeteria workers come pitching ideas, talking about they need new cutlery and supplies. They had another cafeteria person coming in wanting this idea about water ice. And if you don't know what water ice is, it's basically like what we call here in Louisville, Kentucky, like a slushy or icy. In Philadelphia, it's very popular there. And she was like, no, I'm not dealing with that. Like, we're not doing that. Then we had Mr. Johnson. He pitched an idea, which I'm really not too sure what it was. Maybe some, some type of way to make him this super dope, janitor and have all this equipment. There was another teacher there, again, Ava being Ava. She was like, you work here? How you know me? And she was like, I've only worked here 9 years. And she was like, well, girl, like, make yourself known. Like, that's embarrassing for you, not for me. Like, I should know you, right? Gosh, that lady is something else. And then, of course, while all of that's going on, Janine and Greg are in the classroom, and she's basically throwing her pitch out to him to see if he can give her any advice and all the other stuff. And he basically tells her, just be straight to the point. You don't have to do all the extra. And she's like, you know what? That's what I like about you. You are always straight to the point. You're honest. Like, you don't beat around the bush. Because if this was Jacob, he would have just pumped my head up basically and told me everything was everything. And then I would have went in there and just embarrassed myself. But you keep it all the way real, basically. And he was like thinking to himself, you know what? You're right. I do. And I know that sparked a confidence in him to basically be like, you know what? I'm going to do what needs to be done and handle this situation with Taylor, because why am I afraid? That's not who I am. Like, that's not my brand. That's not what I have portrayed myself to be. And I'm not going to, back away from it now and act like, I don't know how to handle situations. And so, like, they both kind of walked away with some more confidence there, which I thought was very cute. So then we continue the Shark Tank, and they deliberate, and we find out that Janine is the one that won the money. But then, y'all, this is where the excitement and the happiness about this one computer in a computer lab comes to an end. Why? Because in the middle of them congratulating her, in comes someone saying that there's an emergency in the cafeteria. And when they all ran into that cafeteria, y'all, my heart sank. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm telling you, if there was ever an outbreak like this in the school in which I work, I will turn in my key, I will turn in my badge, and I will be like, peace out. Because Audrey ain't dealing with that mess. I'm talking about an outbreak of all outbreaks. And I promise you, there's probably a school in your city, in your county, in your state, in your town that has a problem like this. And if y'all want to know what their problem is, make sure y'all go check it out. Make sure y'all go check out this episode, because I'm like literally my skin, like I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about this. But because of this situation, everybody's just like, well, sorry, Janine. This is why we said we wanted to use the money for the basic stuff, because this is what needs to be handled. And so she's like, but I won. But then she quickly comes to her senses and is like, you know what? It is what it is. And she decides to forfeit the money for the computer to handle the situation. And I thought that was very mature of her, because like I said, we want all these good things. We want all of these grand things. And again, she wanted to be as good as the charter school, or show these kids basically that they are special, that they can feel special too about the things that they have, and that so they don't have to feel compared to, or they don't have to feel cheated because they see a school like literally right across the street or behind the fence, thinking that they're better than. Because even the kids were walking around the school talking about the new charter school and the things that they heard were going on there, and what they had there and what they didn't have at Abbott. And so she just decided, like I said, to give up of the funds and handle the situation, and I'm glad that she did. So back to Greg and Barbara. After this whole outbreak situation, we see that Greg is in the classroom needing help with the window, and he knows that Barbara was the one that showed him how to do it. But again, he was avoiding her and trying to ask everybody else for help. But of course, they was like, "We don't know, ask Barbara," but he didn't want to. So he eventually let his pride go to the side and asked her for help. She was, very helpful, showed him what to do. And then she was like, "Okay, is that it?" And he was like, "You know what? Actually, there is something that I want to talk to you about." And then Barbara, hits Greg with a curveball, and he's over here like, she done spilled tea. She done told him all this stuff that Taylor said about him. And y'all, she called my man a broke boy. I said, oh my gosh. So all of that avoidance, all of that running around, all of that being extra, he didn't even have to do it. Because homegirl Taylor was feeling the same exact way. She just didn't know how to do it. And Barbara even said, I told her about beating around the bush and petering around about things. And basically, he found out that through her mom that they were over. And he felt this big. He felt this big. And we also saw that because everyone knew Janine's heart and that she wanted the kids to feel special, Ava decides that she was going to dig deep down into her loving heart, because we all know that it's there, and give this she decided to give the kids a special treat, and they were super excited, and they even had the chance to rub it into the charter school students faces, and they felt really good. So I was glad that she ended up doing what she did. She gave them a nice little sweet treat, and if you want to know what that is, go ahead and watch that episode too, because it's gonna be on Hulu, y'all. And then we see that basically everything was everything. Ava felt like she did, what did she say? She said she killed that on making these decisions and being the principal and making sure everybody was happy, nobody was complaining, everything was everything. And she just felt good about it. So I was happy about that. And then we saw that Greg was kind of over to the side. He wasn't participating in the activities with the kids. And Jacob spilled the tea yet again and told Janine that him and Taylor broke up. And she was like, oh, that's sad. And then she pans to the camera like, not really. Because we all know she likes him still. She has a little crush on him. And so she decides to cheer him up by giving him a sweet treat as well. And he said thank you. And they sparked up a conversation. And that was that on that. And then pretty much it ended with the guys, Mr. Johnson, Greg, and Jacob in the teacher's lounge yet again. And he told them that basically Taylor was planning on letting him go. And Jacob was like kind of happy about it, because he was like, now we have even more things in common, because people used to just ghost me and do me that way all the time. So I can relate, and you can relate to me too. And then in comes Barbara yet again at the tail end of the conversation, mentioning an actor that had nothing to do with what she was talking about, that she had mixed up and again the running joke continued. So that was pretty much the whole episode, y'all. I hope that you all enjoyed this recap. I'm about to go get my nerves together, because I just keep on seeing this situation, and it's just like, oh my gosh. It freaked me out. It really did. Remember guys that Abbott Elementary comes on Wednesdays at 9 on ABC. And if you can't watch it on ABC, you can always watch it on Hulu. I love, love, love this show. This was another wonderful episode, episode 2 from season 2. Come back next Wednesday and we'll recap another episode of America's favorite comedy, Abbott Elementary. Thank y'all for watching. Peace.